Disclaimer.
The thoughts and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily the views of Tash, Becky, or Be Your Best You podcast.
Hey there, lovely people. Welcome to Be Your Best You with Tash and Becky, your go-to hangout for all things spiritual, subconscious, and downright magical. We're here to sprinkle a little mystical wisdom into your everyday life and help you level up your reality.
Picture this as your cosmic coffee date, where we chat about the unseen world, blend in some psychology vibes, and stir up the subconscious magic. Get ready to be the queen of your own reality, live a life that lights you up, and have a blast doing it.
So grab your latte or your tea and let's dive into another episode of Be Your Best You, where the mystical meets the mundane and your best life awaits.
Cheers to creating magic together.
Let's do this.
Hi!
Welcome back to another episode of Be Your Best You with Tash.
I'm Becky, the guest edition, and today we're talking to Philip Hasheider.
Philip is a near-death experiencer.
Yes.
He shares with us today his complete and detailed account of his very profound near-death experience and obviously what he learned and brought back from this.
Yeah.
His message is very, very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Consciousness continues. The afterlife is a lot better. It feels a lot better than it does here. And don't be afraid of death.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of death. And in the process of that, you won't be afraid to live.
Oh, yes, exactly.
That's my little
that.
addition.
Love that.
We hope you enjoy Philip's account of his experience.
Enjoy.
Okay, so if you're the kind of woman who's doing all the healing work, all the mindset work, all the manifesting, but you still feel stuck, it's not because you're broken. It's because your nervous system and your subconscious doesn't feel safe to slow down. So we made you a free 12-minute audio experience called Return to Self, the Subconscious Reset, to turn down the noise and bring you back to your center. Grab it free in the show notes. And today we have on the show Philip. Philip, welcome.
Hi, Philip.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the invitation to speak with both of you and also to speak with your audience and explain my experience.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on. We are so excited to hear your experience and to share it with our audience. And we are just going to pass it on over to you now, Philip. Will you obviously introduce yourself and then just dig into what happened to you?
My name is Philip Hasheider. I live on a grassland farm in south central Wisconsin in the upper Midwest. I have lived in that area almost all my life. I grew up there. My father grew up there. My grandfather did. So the interesting thing about our farm is when I'm out in the pasture walking, I can feel like I'm standing and walking in the same steps that my father did, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, and his father before that. So we do, on our farm, we do try to honor the uh, Native American heritage, which was Ho-Chunk territory. So I want to mention that because we are just visitors to their land, and hopefully we can pass it on to our children. But it is part of the heritage of the area. So we did have a dairy herd until 1997, and then we transitioned into a beef grazing program. And the animals, surprisingly, became part of my story. You're looking at someone who didn't have the faintest idea that when I woke up on an early October morning, that by the end of the day, I would become what I consider an expert on dying and also an expert in hope. And it wasn't something I could have imagined. It wasn't something I had planned. It occurred because of a number of circumstances, and I'm going to just briefly touch on those so your viewers can get some background as to what happened that morning. Well, every morning I would go out to our pasture to check on our cattle. We had 27 head of grazing beef cattle out there. And just to check on them to make sure there were no physical problems, that they were all there, that one of them didn't get out of the fence for some reason. So that morning, like every other morning, particularly the morning before, I went out and walked out, and they were all lying down in the grass. The grass is about a foot tall. And every time I did that, I could get up to them. That morning was different. One of them saw me coming and jumped up, and she perked her ears, which is a animal signal of alarm or alertness, and then looked at me for a second or two and took off running across the field and stopped at 100, 150 feet away, and then turned around and looked at me. Well, that commotion got all of the other animals' interest, and they got up very quickly. They all looked at me, and they ran and joined her in the distance. That had never happened before, because the morning before, I had been walking amongst them, talking with them, scratching them, just moving, and they were all congregated within a close area. Well, I didn't think anything of it other than, well, this is really strange.
Mhm.
So I saw what I needed to see, and they all seemed okay. So I turned around and I walked back to our farmyard. And coincidentally, that morning I had arranged with a local business in what we call our town, which is 12 miles from our farm, to have the tires replaced on our one car. So that was on the agenda for later that morning. Uh, I went in and I changed, and I usually threw my gym bag in the back seat, because if I got to our town early, I would generally go for a workout session at our local hospital has a rehab fitness center that is supervised. And I had been going there for 5, 6 months previous to that morning, um, just to exercise and try to lower my blood pressure, which historically had been rather low, but in the 4 months previous to when I started the exercise, it had risen significantly for unknown reasons. And while I was driving into town, I realized I was going to be really early for the tire change. So instead of turning right to go to get the tires changed, I turned left to go to the fitness area. So I drove, parked, went downstairs, changed clothes, came back up, did a few stretches, said hi to the staff. There were 3 or 4 staff people in the room, only a couple other people, maybe 4 or 5, in that room besides the staff and myself. And I sat down to the arm curl bench to do a few modest arm curls just to get started. So I did 20 of them. I mean, they weren't really hard. And I stood up next to the bench, and the strangest thing happened, because I looked down at both of my forearms. They were tingling, both of them, like they had fallen asleep. And it was so significant. I mean, that's why I looked. Well, so one moment I'm standing next to this bench, and the very next moment I'm finding myself, I'll describe it as floating. And from this point on, I'm going to ask you and your audience to understand that human words are very difficult to explain this whole experience I was about to have, because this, I found out very quickly, this was a dimension that doesn't use vocabulary. Everything is transferred energetically. But I knew what was being said. So one moment I'm standing next to the bench, the next moment I'm floating. I'm floating on waves. And I was floating on something I would call a raft, a small raft, just an individual thing. But it wasn't waves of water. It was waves of energy that were coming towards me, but then passing through me. And I didn't think anything of it or that it was strange, because it felt so good. It was like these waves were enfolding me and washing me with love. It was like liquid love, being in a shower that just fills you with this sensation of warmth and welcome and acceptance. It was that sort of a feeling that I had, that I remember having. And I also remember looking at my hand. Well, what were my hands? But I realized that these were not physical hands. They were energetic filaments that were stitched together to look like the hands I had back here. But yet at that moment, I didn't realize that I had left here.
Right.
And that back at the fitness center, I was lying dead on the floor while people were furiously trying to do CPR on me.
Wow.
And so I'm sitting there floating on this, and watching these waves come through me, and I decide to take a look at what's to, as we understand directions here, to my right. I remember turning to look, and what I saw was what I can best describe as an infinite multitude of dimensions and universes that were suspended out in this eternal space. So I'm going to ask everyone to consider taking our universe, everything we understand it to be, all of the billions of light years across, up and, up and down, all of the universes, all of the galaxies, all of the planetary systems, all of the black holes, everything you can consider being within our known universe here. Take that and compress it down to a single sheet of paper. And then you suspend it out here in this eternal space. And then you take another system, you do the same thing, you put it right next to that, and another one next to that, and another one next to that, and beyond. And you go in what we understand is a lateral direction with all of these universes. And then you go in a vertical direction, and you go widthwise, however you want it, or crosswise, however you want to describe a dimension. And each one of these were separate, but each one of these had an energetic filament attached to it. Well, when I looked up in front of me, what I saw was this gigantic, enormous, you pick a word that is the largest thing you can comprehend. That's what it was. It was pulsing. It was golden, reddish, glowing, pulsing. It was like if you took 10 million of our suns and packed it together, and it was glowing all of this warmth, and it was sending out this love, this welcome, this acceptance. And each one of these filaments on all of these dimensions were attached to what I'll describe as a spider web-like matrix around this golden pulsing essence. And it too was pulsing love, welcome, acceptance into each one of these dimensions and universes. And it was at that point that I noticed little sparks shooting out from the surface. I mean, talk about gazillion, whatever number is your biggest number you can think of. Were shooting out all over the surface of this golden eminence. And it was at that point that I understood that what I was looking at and what I was observing was what I'll call the source of all creation,
Hmm.
the divine creator, the God essence, whatever word resonates with you or doesn't resonate with anyone about the most supreme knowledge, infinite love, infinite acceptance that you can imagine. That's what this was. I mean, just to use a simple term, I understood that this was God,
Mhm. Mhm.
not in a religious sense. I mean, religion is just a man-made construct, but this was God in its full essence, pulsing all of this life and this love out into this eternal dimension. And I could actually reach up and touch it. It wasn't a fiery flame. It was a glowing essence of energy. And it was like it was asking me to merge with it, to be one with it. And yet there I sat on this raft, or whatever you want to call it. And I understood that this is where all life that we understand here is created. But there is life in ways we don't understand because of our human limitations. And that's what I understood to be all these other different universes and dimensions that were suspended there. Well, I turned, understanding front and back, because I wanted to see where all of these energetic waves were going. So I turned around, as we understand that, and what I saw was infinity. And that's because the emulsion of eternity acted like a magnifying glass, so that the farther I looked, the clearer everything became. To see the edge of eternity was a profound moment. I mean, for a spirit being, because I certainly wasn't there as my physical body.
Mm.
So I just marveled at the whole atmosphere I was in. And I knew I had come home because I understood that those sparks that came out at one time was me. And this, and I'm going to explain that part a little bit later. But so here I was enjoying this. I mean, really enjoying it. I thought, man, why would anybody ever want to leave this? It was just so
Yeah.
welcoming. It was so loving. It was so warm. Well, one moment I was there, next moment I was no longer there. And according to the timeline of the printout from the EMTs, and incidentally, I did not know that I had died. I did not know that my body was lying on the floor in that room and that there were a dozen EMTs and 5 hospital staff who were frantically working to restart my heart. Now, had I known that at the time I was still on this energetic raft, I couldn't have even called them to tell them Hey, don't don't bother. This is really good. I don't want to go back. I couldn't tell them that if they didn't restart my heart, hey, you don't have to blame yourself. I'm fine where I am.
Mhm.
But just like that, I was gone in a blink, less than a blink of an eye. And according to the printout, that's about when they restarted my heart. So I had come back uh, with an experience that I never expected that morning. And I had come back from the longest trip I had ever made in what subsequently became 6 minutes.
Mm.
And I came back with an experience that would take me a very long time to understand and even longer to be able to explain to someone, especially my wife.
Mm.
And yet, it would still be another 8 months before I would be given the answer as to why I returned.
Right.
So it was a profound experience, and I'm to the point. I've done a number of interviews, and I've received some comments, and that's fine. But I'm to the point where I really don't care if anyone believes me. I know what my experience was. I know what it means to me, and I'm satisfied with it.
Mm.
Now, I hope people will examine what I've said, and they can doubt it if they want. That's their choice. They can believe it if they want. But I have no reason to make any of this up because I have no monetary interest in it.
Okay.
So this is just something that I'm trying to do to explain to people that I've seen the other side,
Yeah.
and the other side is so much better than here.
Yeah.
So there's really nothing to fear. We're all safe,
Yeah.
which is going to bring me to one of the points I need to make is one of the lessons that I learned from all of this. And first of all, it took me 8 hours that day to finally come to be cognizant that there were other people around me. Um, and one of them was uh, my wife, who, when I finally realized I, I was back, not back, I didn't know I left. I just finally realized that I had come to. Mary was standing at the end of my feet. I was lying on this table, and she was rubbing my feet, and I couldn't figure out what she was doing there because she had left early in the morning for her full-time job, and I knew that she had left. I mean, she wasn't with me, so why was she here?
Mm.
Our two children were there, but one of them lived in Minneapolis, and one of them lived in eastern Wisconsin. Well, where did they come from? Because they weren't there that morning when I was out in the pasture. So nothing made any sense. And there was some guy next to me asking questions, and I don't know. I didn't know who he was, but he kept repeating questions to me and asking me to answer it, and I was really getting tired of it. And apparently, I had been doing that for 20 minutes before I realized I was actually talking to someone.
Mm.
So I call it my interdimensional confusion because I was still at that other dimension, and yet I'm now here in a physical body again. And I couldn't make sense of any of it, particularly when I looked at the clock in the wall and it said, I mean, the hands were at the 12 and the 8 o'clock. And I finally said to whoever was standing next to me with the clipboard that can't be the right time. And he said, well, why not? And I said, well, it can't be 8 o'clock because I went to the fitness center at 11. He said, no, it's 8 o'clock at night. I said, that can't be. Time doesn't run backwards, at least not here. And there was this pause, and he said, no, 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 no. It's 8 at night. So I lost a span of time
Mm.
where I was gone. And I remember that, but I don't remember anything else during that period of time.
Mm.
So one of the things as I was recovering, and it took me 4 or 5 months, Mary wouldn't let me go outside by myself. She was afraid I might wander off or worse, collapse again. She wouldn't let me handle any farm equipment without her supervision. Uh, it was a real struggle, and they put me on medications that to lower my blood pressure, but at this point it had returned to normal because they had put 2 stents in me.
Right.
So uh, it was really confusing, and it took me a long time to find my way back here, which is what I was really doing because I was somewhere else, and now I'm back in this dimension and having to deal with the body and everything else that goes on here. Well, one of the things when I started to consider what happened, what I was told, talking to the EMTs about what they did and that sort of thing, one of the things I kept asking is why. Why did it happen? First of all, I was fairly young. I mean, I was 63 at the time, active. Why did it happen? Why did it happen? Where it did?
Mm.
When it did? And not 1 hour earlier when I was out in the pasture with our cattle. Because if it had happened out there, there would have been nobody around for 8 hours to come look for me, and then they wouldn't know where I was anyway. So it was a lot of why. And looking back at our cattle, as I mentioned earlier, they must have recognized something about me that they hadn't recognized the morning before.
Yeah.
Not that they knew, or maybe they did, understood that something was about to happen to me, and that scared them. I don't know. I know that animals have a consciousness of their own. I've worked with animals all of my life, and I can attest to them having what we would ascribe as certain human feelings uh, that we can understand. But I do think that animals have their own consciousness, and for some reason, they must have seen something different in me that they didn't recognize, and either it alarmed them or scared them or just found really curious. But I'll leave that as it is. But that was my take on the animal later on when I got thinking back to it. But one of the first things that I understood when I got thinking back on my experience was that our bodies are more than the sum of its parts. By that I mean when I was standing next to the arm curl machine, I had 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 hands, 2 eyes, 2 ears, same thing. And I had those same body parts when I was lying dead on the floor, except for one thing. That inner essence of me, that inner spirit, you can call it your soul if you wish, that left when my heart stopped because it couldn't reside in it anymore. That left, and that's where I was in that eternal dimension. That has taught me that this inner spirit, the inner soul, whatever you want to term it, is the truest sense of us. That is the truest part of us, in that never dies because it existed there. It couldn't exist in the human body anymore, but it could there. So it left. And then when they restarted my heart, it had to come back.
Mm.
So it makes very clear sense to me as to how that whole thing operated. I don't understand the alchemy that's involved with uh, basically transporting your spirit to another dimension. Uh, and I hope someday I will. But I was in one place, I was not here, but then I was here again, but not in that place. So I know that in a sense, there is the ability that we have to travel through time and space to far off dimensions, far off universes. We just can't take our bodies along because our bodies aren't built to, well, first of all, last forever. Unlike our spirit, our soul, that lasts forever.
Mm.
Because I realized that one of those sparks coming out was me at some time. It was you. It was you. It was everyone who's reading or listening to this interview. Now, again, I'm not telling people what to think. I'm just explaining my experience and how I understand it. And everyone has to come to their own conclusions or not.
Mm.
But you will find in the end, even if you want to doubt it, you will find in the end that this is what's going to happen. However, at that point, you won't be able to come back and tell me that's true.
Yeah. If you're trying to manifest your desires, but you're doing it from pressure, from control, from I need to fix myself energy, your body won't let you receive. We made you a free 12-minute nervous system reset called Return to Self, so you can soften first and then create from the right energy. It's linked in the show notes.
But yet, being able to continue through eternity.
Yeah.
And when you think about eternity, what is eternity? It's when you stretch time so that it's so elastic it doesn't exist.
Mm.
Because that's what was in that dimension. There was no time. Time is a human construct so that we can navigate this lower dense plane that we exist in, so that our bodies can exist in it. And the essence of the density of our bodies is that we can exist here because of the dimension we're in being a low energetic dimension versus a high eternal dimension, is that we get to function here.
Mm.
Now, brings up a whole bunch of other points, but which I won't have time to get into, but being able to come here and leave, it's like I mentioned the alchemy of being able to do that. I came back, and I'm going to use a human term, with this experience that was basically tattooed to my soul when it came back.
Mm.
Because I've been asked by a number of people, well, do you think you could have been dreaming this? Well, I've said, yeah, that's possible. But consider the fact that, yeah, we all probably have dreams at night, usually. And when you wake up in the morning, you can't remember the whole dream. You remember snippets of it and maybe certain events that occurred and why it even became a dream or not. But every time now that I think back to this experience I had in that eternal dimension, it's all the same. It never changes. And I can remember from beginning to end, from when I first realized I was on this energetic raft until I left. And nothing changes. And when I think about this experience, I get this welling up within me internally, this same warmth and love and acceptance. It just wells up, and I feel like I'm there without leaving this body. So I don't know how else to explain my understanding of that dimension, bringing it back and kind of reinserting it within myself,
Mm.
and that knowing, well, when my body ceases to exist, which it's going to, and no, I don't want to leave tomorrow,
Hmm.
but I'm not afraid of leaving tomorrow.
Mm.
Um, but this body only harbors my my soul here, my inner essence, and that allows it to move here. Now, I do think that there are spirits, there are angels, some people call them angels, guardian angels, whatever, that are here amongst us, but they don't get to interfere with us because they are not of human form. We come here from that little spark to inhabit a human body so that we can function here.
Mm.
Um, you know, I've had an extraordinary experience, but I don't consider myself any more special than the person next to me that I know, any more special than the person that's next to me that I don't know. We are all of the same source of all creation, whether you want to believe it or not. You are. We are. And that what we bring with us when we enter into this body is what will leave and continue on. So if you think about how long is eternity? I mean, basically, we're living in eternity right now, and I'll explain that. But it's a matter of understanding that the use of time is a human construct to navigate this plane of existence.
Mm.
But if you accept that, then you look at, okay, you know your grandparents were alive, you know your great grandparents were alive because somebody knew them and told you. So when they thought of eternity, what did they think? It would probably be sometime after they died, physically. So, well, guess what? Here we are. We are living in their eternity.
Yeah.
So, it's a matter of semantics. What do you consider eternity? Eternity is timeless, which is a really hard concept for humans to get their mind around.
Mm.
I understand that, but to accept that we are not limited by our existence, physically, yes, but not by our inner spirit, our soul. That is unlimited. So how do I make sense of how I got here? Well, at some point I was one of these little sparks, and I was existing. Now, this is my understanding. It doesn't have to be anybody else's, but it's mine. At some point, I decided I wanted to come here, and I wanted my parents to be the ones that I come through. So I took, I'm on this energetic superhighway. Okay. So I took this off ramp and I dropped down into this lower dimension. Well, in order to exist here, I have to take on a human form. So I'm born of my parents. I was raised by them. And now I spent 74 years here enjoying what's around and sometimes not enjoying it. But it is part of our learning process. So when this body decides it's had enough or whatever happens to it, my inner spirit, my soul, is going to leave again for good, but it's going to get on the on ramp to this energetic superhighway, and it's going to go on forever. It's got all of these eternal dimensions
Mm.
to explore.
Yeah.
What could be better than that?
Mm.
I don't know. I've tried to think, well, what could be better than that? Chocolate sundae, I suppose, but that's not going to happen. Um, But not to be flip about it, but that's the concept I'm trying to get people to think about. Yeah, I mean, it's not something you want to think about every day, but uh, it is part of our existence. Now, I've also been asked, well, how did that little spark come about? And I have an answer that I've thought about for quite a bit before I even brought it to anyone's attention, because it's going to sound a little far-fetched, but this is the way, after my experience and what I've been thinking about it and what uh, I'm going to step back for a second. I think we all have guides. I'll refer to that. Some people will call them guardian angels. I don't think they mess with us. I don't think they can influence us. But I do think that they provide windows of opportunity for us. They don't tell us what to do, as I understand it. And they don't nudge us to do something. But they provide this plate of opportunities for us to pick from, because that's why we're here. Our soul is here to learn and to take those experiences on to the next existence. So they provide these opportunities. And what happened that morning, I now understand. I could have turned right and sat there in the parking lot waiting to have my tires changed, but I turned left. I had a choice, and we all have choices, and we have to choose. I mean, you can't go through life without making choices. And sometimes they're good choices that turn out exceedingly well. Sometimes they're ones you wonder what you were actually thinking about. But that's how we learn. So because I turned left, that's what made the difference. But I had the option. I had the choice to turn right. So maybe if I'd gone there, nothing might have happened. But then it might have happened the next morning out in the pasture. So the matter of what ifs, is to me irrelevant, because you only have this moment right now to make a choice, because that moment is already passed. And all we are doing is moving forward through eternity. And whether you can mark that by a set of time standards, that's your choice. We do that because we have to navigate this dimension. Even though I had this extraordinary experience, I wasn't given a free pass. I still have to pay my bills. I still work for a living. I have to follow the rules of the road. So I'm another human being making, in my case, his way through this journey. But we were all on a journey. But we are all part of the DNA of that creator energy, that spark that's come with us, to be us, to develop into us. And I mentioned much earlier about being able to see my energy filament stitched hands. My understanding of that now is that little spark of me, my soul that left this body down here, expanded so that I would recognize it when I was there and not be afraid, because there is nothing to be afraid of there. There's no fear, there's no death, there's no dungeon, there's no hell, which religions tend to want to promulgate. There wasn't it. And my understanding of all these negative terms, fear, violence, hatred, greed, they all have a different vibration than those of love, welcome, acceptance. So that they get kind of balled up together, but because they're so dense, they cannot rise to this level of higher energy. They become dissolved, dis, dis, dissolved and not destroyed, just they disappear because they can't rise to that level. It's like dropping a piece of lead in a lake. It's not going to rise to the level of the surface.
Mhm.
It's just going to sit down there. But it's those ideas that sit there, not people, not souls. It's the idea of all of those negative energies that we use to bludgeon each other with.
Mhm.
So that was a profound understanding, but it still didn't answer the question of why. Why did I come back?
Mhm.
And as I mentioned, it took a lot of thinking and a lot of conversation with the EMTs and doctors. And well, the doctor said I was just fortunate. Well, I knew it had to be more than that. And it came, my answer came about 8 months later, and it was in the morning. Uh, I struggled, as I said, with the medications because it affected my balance, my steps. I had stumbled until they finally took it off because they realized that was causing the problem. I came down one morning for breakfast, and Mary was sitting at the end of our kitchen table, and she looked up at me. She had a notepad in her hand, which she typically didn't have when I came down. So I got myself positioned, sat down, and she waited until I was ready. And then she said, "Well, would you like to hear what you said last night?" And I said, "Well, I didn't remember saying anything." But she said, "Oh, yeah, you did." And I said, "Okay, what did I say?" Well, she said, I grabbed the notepad because when you say something in the middle of the night that you've never done since before your collapse, I thought it might be significant. So this is what I wrote down. And she said, "Well, you sat up in bed and you were mumbling to yourself, and I couldn't understand a word you were saying. And then you stopped." And she said, "I started to shake my head from side to side, saying, 'I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.'" She said, "I did that 3 times. And then she asked, 'Well, what don't you believe?' And she said, I told her the reason I came back. And she said, 'Well, what was that reason?' And she said, she's reading off the pad. She said, I spoke out saying, 'I came back because I was told to come back to be a conduit of hope for those who don't have any or don't think there is any.'" And there's this pause. And I said, "Well, what else?" She shrugged her shoulders and said, "That was it. After you were done, you lay back
With
down and went back to sleep." But when I'm so grateful to her because
Mm,
when she said that, I instantly knew the answer to my question of why.
yeah.
And so this is part of my giving back to, the gift of that experience was freely given to me. Did I ask for it? I suppose at some level. Did I really want it? Probably not, but I was given it. And so my gift is to try to explain it to people, to let them know that, yeah, things may be bad here, but they won't be that bad all the time.
Mhm.
And we are all welcomed. There is no one who is neglected. There is no one who is left out, regardless of what you have done here. You are accepted. I am accepted.
Hmm.
Everyone is accepted. Now, there are going to be people that push back and say, well, that, because they acted a certain way here, uh, that can't be. Well, why not? Are you God to determine that? Which is, going to get into a whole different discussion that maybe we can have another day.
Mhm.
But I now understand, and again, this is my understanding of the whole process of how we have come into being. Because someone asked me, well, how can we be eternal? Well, it's because God is eternal. If we can understand what eternity is, or even a small scratch of it, where there is no time, we just are, and we exist as a gift from God, not from a religion, but from the source of all creation.
Mm.
It's a gift, and uh, my understanding. Now, I mentioned this golden pulsing orb in this eternal dimension,
Mm.
and what I understand is that within this mind of God, and I don't think it's blasphemous by any means to be able to try to understand the mind of God. People have done it for centuries,
Mhm.
and this is my understanding of it. Take it for what it's worth. But within this golden orb, there is the energy, the creator energy, the God essence energy, the potential energy floating around. And that at some point, and I'm going to use this as an example. I mean, I'm not exactly sure about the alchemy, but at some point, God has this thought: I'm going to make him, or I'm going to make this person, and it becomes her. I'm going to make this, and it becomes an animal. I'm going to make this, and it becomes something else. I'm going to make this, and it becomes a planetary system. So to deny God that opportunity to be creative in whatever way God wants to be, that I think is blasphemous, if you want to use a human term to
Mm.
explain that. I mean, I don't think it's a big deal, but let God be God. So you have this potential energy. God has a thought, and this thought becomes crystallized. It becomes fused, and it becomes part of the God energy because that's where it's being made. And it's compressed, and it becomes this little spark that comes shooting out from the surface because that's what God wants it to do. So, in essence, we have existed as long as God, not in human form by any means, but because of the potential energy within this, that the molecules, whatever you want to call them, that became this little spark that was fused and it was sent out. Once it's sent out and leaves, it's given free will.
Mm.
We all have free will. And so we can choose where we want to go as our soul decides, well, let's try this one. And so I'm here for 74 years. Well, when I leave, I get to choose another place to go. Do I know where that is? No, not yet. Will I like it? That's to be seen. Maybe it's going to be better than this. Maybe it'll be worse. But we've got eternity
Yeah.
to explore all of these different options available to us. So that is my understanding of how this all works. And once we leave, we exist forever. We can go wherever we want. We can experience what we want. But it all comes back to recognizing the divinity in everyone beside us, everyone we won't possibly meet here. Um, all the people we like, all the people we don't care for,
Mm.
uh, we are all of that DNA of the creator energy. That's what's within us. That's what makes us equal. There is none of us above each other. Now that economics have created divisions, but internally, in inner spirit, our souls, we're all on the same plane, and we will all go back to the same plane, and we will all live on. Now we may end up. I know there are people who said they have said from their experience that they have met family members, and I don't doubt that for 1 minute. That wasn't my experience, but
Mm.
why should two people have who have near-death experiences have the same unique experience? We're unique individuals here, so uh, our experiences here are going to be different. So why, when we leave, should we have the same? I that doesn't make any sense to me. So I think we all have unique vantage points of the same eternity that we're heading towards and
Mm.
where we came from. I mean, this is just a way station, really, at least in my opinion. Now,
Mm.
again, that's my opinion. And others can say that I'm really crazy, but that's how I understand this whole process. And process is probably not the correct term for all of this because that makes it a human
Mm.
concept. Because we talk in terms of process. Um, so that to know that there is something beyond this life, I would hope. I would hope that it is hopeful for others
Yeah.
because death is nothing to fear. Maybe you don't want to see it come, but eventually it will. And a lot of people don't want to talk about it, and that's
Mhm.
fine. Um, but when you do think about it, there's no reason to fear thinking about it
Yeah.
because it's just part of our natural evolution.
Mm.
And will I come back here? Maybe, maybe not. So that that is pretty much where I stand at this moment. Now, I have been given uh, a knowing of certain things. I don't think I have experienced the full breadth of that 6 minutes that I was in that eternal dimension because it wasn't 6 minutes. It felt like centuries,
Mhm.
if you can imagine that. But I don't think I've experienced or understood or have learned about everything that I did see because I compare it to let's use a computer. Say our brains have 8 gigabytes of memory capacity, and all of a sudden it's exposed to a trillion terabytes, as an example.
Mhm.
Because what's infinite knowledge is knowing everything about everything
Yeah.
before it happens and what has happened, at least here. So trying to push all that information into
Mhm.
my brain probably would fry it or it would make me totally confused forever
Yeah.
because it's too much information for a human
Mhm.
body to handle. But it's out there. I mean, whether or not I can handle it, it still exists there.
Mhm.
So I think I was only given the amount of information at that time that I can understand. But
Yeah.
in the course of the last 4 or 5 years, I've been able to understand more. It's not that my experience changed, it's my understanding of it has
Mm.
evolved as I
Mm.
and I'm getting more comfortable with knowing these things.
Yeah.
And so this is part of what I try to do. uh, explaining it. And again, people can take it or leave it. That's that really sounds crass, but basically that's what it is.
Yeah.
As I said, I know my experience and I'm happy with it, or I'm content with it to understand to
Mm,
this point.
mm,
Now, do other people understand it? Um, my wife Mary does to a certain extent, but we have found that in a family or a partnership or a marriage, whatever you want to family structure you want to call it, the person who has the NDA has this extraordinary experience. The other person has absolutely no idea what they're talking about. And because they didn't have the experience. And the person who had it can't find the words to explain it.
yeah.
And so we found last year that for married couples or well, it was specifically for married couples, but let's not exclude partners or other family configurations, that up to 80% of marriages end in divorce because one person had this wonderful experience and the other one just can't grab a hold of it.
Mm,
Fortunately, Mary has had enough experience to understand a lot of what I've said, and she's heard my story enough times now that I think it kind of seeps into a person that this is what it is, and so I'm grateful for a lot of things. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be talking with you. I'm grateful to be talking with your audience. Um, I'm grateful to exist.
mm.
Because I had this experience, I don't want people to think that they should just slough themselves off and go and enjoy this because it's not how it works. I mean, you really should participate in the life you've been given. I mean, it's a gift to be here because we were allowed to come in through two other humans
Hmm.
and to, kind of toss that away is pointless because you've been given the right to be here just like anyone else. So because someone says you're not worthy or you're not good enough or that sort of thing, don't listen to that because you are worthy. You have the right to be here. Everyone has the right because that is the purpose of our being here. So that I'm sorry. I've taken up the
No,
majority of the time. If
Oh,
you have some questions,
no, you
no,
I'll
just
stop. I'll
explained
stop
it.
now. I'll
Yeah,
stop.
you explained it beautifully. You really did.
Mm,
And it's so important, that message, isn't it? So important what you're doing. It's just like incredible.
mm.
I don't know if you've
Yeah,
got any
no,
questions, Tash. It's ooh.
thank you so much for sharing that, Philip. And obviously, like there could be a million questions whirling around my head, but I think the most important thing, is what you said, what you've come back with. The reason this happened, the reason you came back, is to get that message across. Ultimately,
Yeah.
that consciousness doesn't end. It doesn't
Mm,
end with this body, and that there's hope afterwards. And I truly do think that that is the most important message that you can bring back, because
yeah.
I know I see this and I've seen what it's done for myself and
Mm,
for the clients that I've worked with. So I do past life regression, and a lot of the process of what I do is taking people through, well, clearly another life, which suggests you've been here and done this before, but then their death scene, and then what happens after that they have died and crossed over. And the people that are on my couch are giving me the exact same message that you've just shared here. I've heard it so many times through various people, through listening to near-death experiences. And, people who our audience know, I've said this many times, listening to near-death experiences was the thing that I first stepped into when I kind of walked into this spiritual world, shall we say. It was the thing that I credit for opening up my mind to being able to see that we are way more than this body. and then everything that understanding then leads from. And I think if all humans could just have that belief and trust, knowledge, whichever word you want to use, like you said, it takes away the fear of death, because ultimately a lot of the work that I'm doing when I'm working with people's, subconscious minds and the limiting beliefs, eventually you take every single fear, everything that's running their life, every belief that's stopping them from doing what they want to do, you can take it down to, and then I'm scared that I will die.
Yeah.
Whether they know it consciously or not, that is an underlying fear that's running through all of us as humans. And that's for a number of reasons. That's been in the kind of collective, for thousands and thousands of years. It's been programmed into us. And so you take away that one fear and everything just suddenly gets a lot easier. And also you become more compassionate, don't you? You become more understanding, less judgmental. There's so much that can come from that message that you've given. So though, yes, we could spend another hour of us asking you questions of, and what about this and how that, I just think the most important thing is that you've done
everything
it.
you've said.
Yeah, you've done it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I do hope our listeners can take comfort from what you said and know that I can vouch for Philip's message from hearing lots and lots of people saying the same thing personally firsthand to me when they've experienced it themselves whilst they're still here and they haven't had to go through the experience that you went through of actually dying. Sorry about that for you.
No. Actually, I got off easy because it wasn't painless at all. I was standing there and then I wasn't standing there. I was just, Now, the staff person that first attended me said, and I interviewed all of the staff members and the EMTs that worked on me. So there were 15, 17 people. And because I was trying to piece it all together. And one of the interesting things I learned from that was that one person could recall specifically everything they did to work on me. They couldn't tell me what the person next to them was doing, but they could be explicit about what they did. And each one of them was like that. So I'm glad I did it because I had captured their work. And I mean, it hasn't gotten published or put out, but because it's their own private information, but it may help me understand what was going on in that room at that time. I was not there to experience it. And one of the first woman, basically, she said, "You collapsed right at my feet." She said, I sat up and looked like deer in the headlights is a phrase we use, like just.
Yeah.
But then she said I was gone again. So, but I don't remember anything after having looked at my forearms. So, one thing I didn't mention was humans. I did mention humans use time so that we can navigate our existence here. When you think about it, though, this planetary system is the only one that does it. There is no other planetary system in our universe that I'm aware of that keeps time. And if you expand that, then you're looking at the whole eternal dimensions surround this. It encompasses this. So we're really the only ones that want to make a big deal out of time. Well, I mean, you have to if you want trains to run or you want to keep your appointments and that sort of thing. But my point is for people to take the time to crack open their set beliefs and not be afraid of doing that. Because when you crack that shell, you open it into a larger sphere of inquisition, of study. Um, so as you said, there's a lot of there's a lot more we could talk about.
Yeah.
Hey, and somewhere beginning of next or somewhere next year, if you're interested, we could just sit and have a talk.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
doesn't have to be for an interview. It can just be to
Yeah.
talk.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, love that because it's just so, and I think it would be useful as well. It's helpful, isn't it? So we've heard your story, but then we could just get into the nitty gritty because
Yeah.
I do think you bring up an important point. Like you said, you know, you didn't feel any, you didn't even know you had died. You didn't feel anything. And obviously a lot of people, whether they're thinking about themselves or their loved ones, you know, I know there's different ways that you can die, and if there's an illness it's more long drawn out and there is a, you know, suffering in that term, but the actual process of dying, which we fear more often than not, is not painful. It's like, you know, taking a coat off and going, you know, into the next place. And I think that that on its own can be really comforting for people as well. And then, you know, like I said, we could dive into there's questions that I have about, did you feel attached to your body when you were in this space and you realized that your body was dead on the floor? Did you feel attached to it? Could you see it? There's loads of like questions we could dig into, which I think would be awesome to have another interview on. So I don't even want to go go down there. I know, I'm just really quiet, and we'll definitely get that booked in. But thank you for everything you've shared. And I suppose before we leave, if you could succinctly sum up what you would like to leave after having this experience that you've had, what would you just like the audience to take from that? What would you like them to know that could potentially help them moving forward?
Well, I'll leave you with two things. One is that we are here to recognize the divinity in everyone else, and to recognize that love is part of that, even if we don't care for the person next to us, have good feelings for the person next to us. It doesn't matter. We can't discriminate. But we need to recognize that divinity in everyone else. And if we did that, why would we have to have a war?
Yeah.
I mean, if we truly did that. Um, so recognizing that divinity in other people is part of our journey here. But yet, hope is the pathway on that journey that each one of us can take if we want to. And I think that's what I would like people to remember, if nothing else.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Lovely.
Thank you so much, Philip.
Thanks, Philip. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank
Oh,
you so much. Thank
well,
you.
thank you for the invitation, and I wish you both well. And yeah, maybe we can talk again.
Oh,
Definitely.
absolutely. We will hold you to that. Right, guys, that's it. We hope you have enjoyed this episode and you've taken something, if nothing else, hope with you, because I know it's just solidified what I already know to be true, but it's just lovely to hear it once again
from Philip.
from
That's
Philip.
beautiful.
First-hand
Thank
account.
you.
Thank you so much.
Is
And
it,
we will, sorry, Karen.
no, is it too crass to show the cover of my book?
No, absolutely
No.
not.
Oh,
Mainly
look
because mainly because I want to make a comparison.
Mm.
The cover was designed by a gentleman in London,
yeah.
and he did not know my story. So I'm going to show you, if you notice this photo in the back,
I clocked that straight away.
that this was taken by my wife, Mary, on a sunset at our farm. So if you look at the two
Yes.
similarities,
Wow.
there is a thread between these two that we never expected.
Wow.
The interesting thing about this photo or the cover is for 4 months after my collapse, um, M- Mary would usually drive because she still wasn't quite sure I would be able to function on the road adequately. So I would be looking around trying to find the color that I saw from this golden, glowing, pulsing God essence around here. anywhere in my field of vision. I couldn't, and I
Mhm.
still haven't,
Mm.
because I don't think that color exists here.
Hmm.
I think we get approximately close to it, which is if you take this color and this color, that's as and mix them, that's as close as I can come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it gives people some idea as to what the
Mhm.
color was, and I never mentioned the tones I heard while I was there because it
Oh.
doesn't come up in conversation very much. But I heard something. I thought it was just a low hum.
Hmm.
But when I was there, I could understand that what I was listening to was an octaves,
Hmm.
an infinite number of octaves going up and down. And I felt that this was some sort of a tone from the God essence, that they were part of it, God speaking, if you will,
Yeah.
but it was in tones.
Hmm.
So I just mentioned that because it was the other thing I had been looking for, and I still haven't found tones that are.
Mm.
Yeah.
Although Carl Jenkins comes really close with the Benedictus. I don't know if you've ever heard that one.
No.
No.
Carl Jenkins,
Oh,
Welsh composer.
No.
no.
Oh,
Don't think so.
it's from The Armed Man, A Mass for Peace, and he's got a piece in there. It's the Benedictus. Please take a look and
Yeah.
listen. It just transports me every time I hear it. I mean, I'm just so
Wow.
grateful for having experienced that piece of music. Um, I listen I listen to classic FM all the time,
Yeah.
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 which
Trying to
is
compose.
which is out of, out of the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Oh,
anyway,
we'll have to have a look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
uh,
well, I've listened to hundreds and hundreds of near-death experiences at this point, and you do hear an awful lot that this is a repeating theme. The colours over there, we do not have them here, and the sounds,
Mm.
the sounds, nobody can
Can't-
quite get
No.
it here.
yeah,
Mm.
So we have all of this to look forward to. But
but
not until we've enjoyed this life and made the most of it, because we're here and we chose it, and we'll get there. Obviously, we all know we're gonna be there one day. So, yeah, and it's nothing to be fearful of, which is
Exactly.
amazing.
yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I've enjoyed it. I've taken up your full time. Um,
We've loved it.
it, if people do want to contact me,
Yeah.
they can. My email address is philiphasheiderbooks@gmail.com.
We will put all your details in the show notes. So I will put your book in the show notes and your email address, and I'll put it all in there so people can find you and can hear. You've been on lots of podcasts and things as well, haven't you? So you can go listen to. I know you have a lot to share. I can tell there's so
Mm.
much you're unpacking with this, and it's just too big to talk about in one
It is.
interview, isn't it? And I'm
Yeah.
sure every interview you do gets maybe a little bit
Yeah.
of a different angle. So yeah,
Mm.
that's just awesome. Thank you, Philip. Thank you so much. And
Thank
thank you guys for listening. We will see you again next week. Take
Yeah.
care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.